Hey, this is Gavin. I hope you all have a good Thanksgiving. If you did not get invited to a Thanksgiving, consider trying to become someone who can host one, and maybe that means trying to find someone who has the gift of hospitality and offer to help them, and then practice being grateful that you are able to help someone who has the gift of hospitality. Um, so that's that. That's the context of where we're at. But I listened to, um, I think it's called Christ Chris. I'll share a link in the description. And it was a discussion about parenting, and there were some good points. Um, my favorite point was that there was an encouragement to make a list of things that you want for your child, and that's an interesting idea of having a list of things that you want so that your child will be closer to God, be healthier. But you could do that also for anyone. And they said that if you just focused on two of the 10 things on that list for like 6 weeks, praying, seeking to do the will of God, that oftentimes you'll see that the other things on that list will resolve themselves. And they said, and here's the part what I'm unsure about, is this joyful obedience. That the aim of these teachers about parenting is that the children would have joyful obedience. And it occurs to me that we can be a servant when we go out and do work, and we can be a joyful and obedient servant. And we can do that when we work for the government, if we're in the military or if we're in law enforcement. And it doesn't feel right, exactly right, because the master is God. And so that's where I asked, how well does the parent know God? And so they pointed at this phrase, they called it fellowship, the joyful fellowship. And so I think this is the true aim. So joyful obedience is not as good as the goal of joyful fellowship. Now they made good points about the development of the human, the stages of development. For example, they said, by the time they're 12 years old, you ought not use corporal punishment. And so I like that they recognize that there are transitions between phases, but at the same time, I'm not sure about the use of corporal punishment just broadly, because I know as a parent, I have a child where I haven't needed to use corporal punishment, and maybe he's got a set of gifts. And then I have children where it's like corporal punishment just does not work for another one. And then I have another one where it seems to work. And so as a parent, you have to love your child. You have to try to do the will of God. Remember that that's God's child. And you have to make sure you're not just doing it for yourself, that you want them to obey you as the master. What you're trying to do is you're trying to get them to be in fellowship with God while you are practicing being in fellowship with God. And so you have to be careful that, like, what I've seen is that some people who call themselves Christians end up raising children who obey, they obey. And when you obey the people in the world, you can be misled such that you never experience fellowship with God. And so you need to be in fellowship with God primarily, and then attempt to serve, and that's the goal. Now, of course, a 3-year-old is going to have a hard time getting that. There's steps. It's important that we learn, there's all these steps. We have to learn how to love people. So we have to practice that and attempt to encourage it. And yeah, sometimes I'm not saying that corporal punishment should be off the table, like entirely. I'm just saying that for some children it's unnecessary, it's not needed. For other children, it just won't work. Corporal punishment just won't work. There's a question of like, what do they do with a child that has a disability, for example? My first thought is that we pray. And to me, that's a good answer, that we seek to know the will of God. And so each child is unique. And from a certain perspective, they might appear to have a disability. I myself, 3 months ago, it might appear that I had a major disability in my inability to love people. Some people might call it narcissism, and if you're kind, you might call it autism. But now I feel healed, and humans can experience things which would result in them needing to be healed, right? And including your children, because maybe you did something you shouldn't have done as a parent. Maybe the child was away from you and experienced something which caused some harm. And maybe you believe you are doing the will of God when you're not doing the will of God, and you're causing harm to your child. Like, these kinds of things can happen. So I'd encourage you to try and do God's will, and remember that you are raising God's children. That's what you've been tasked with. And so you kind of need to know what it's like to be a pastor. And so I'm interested in that. This other point, so entertainment point, I've tried to start a new YouTube channel, and I've recorded myself playing Minecraft with my 3 children, and then I edited it down from 2.5 hours to like 1.5 hours. And now every time I use DaVinci Resolve just crashes. And so I need to figure that out. But entertainment, the thing that I'm interested in hearing, please leave a comment below, is like, in that, so when I was listening to those teachers about parenting, they mentioned like mission biographies. I forget exactly, but it's the biographies of people who did mission work. And so that sounds interesting. So I was very interested in testimonies, and I still am. So I think that can help. And I'm very interested in stories which will encourage people to be tricked into seeing through the eyes of a saint who loves everyone up to and including their worst enemies. I'm interested in that kind of entertainment. And I'm also interested in this biographies of people who do mission work. And ideally, these would be saints, like the biographies of saints who do mission work. So, yeah, saints. So if you have recommendations on that, please share. A lot of times these saints, I think they have a testimony. And so, yeah, stories of saints would be very interesting, like real life heroes. And then, I know something about creating technology, and I'm talking to my wife here and there about trying to create technology, trying to do work with the skills I have, which would help with the mission. So, got a lot of thoughts, got a lot of skills, a lot of knowledge in this area, and it's like a lot of potential to do good work. And so, pray for me on that one. Pray for my family and the people who would, be a part of the team to do that work, that we would find each other and serve God, doing IT, information technology. I don't know. I think the thing that might be lacking in my current position is just a service to God. So I think that the things we're doing are good. I just want it to be very good. I want more. So pray for me. Yeah. And let me know what you think. This pastoring parent, mission support technologies and entertainment with biographies for saints. I shared a post. If you look at like my history on my channel here, I shared a post that points at Agapologia. That's the name of the YouTube channel, and there was a focus on someone who has a testimony and could be, according to my definition, could be considered a saint. So I'm interested in more of those biographies of saints, and please share if you are aware of them. All right, so I hope y'all have a good Thanksgiving, and maybe you'll see me in a week or so. Have a good one.